Hey everybody, it's Sophie.
And Marco!
Dish out on the movies. Today I am going to talk about, why isn't Marco going to do it? Because I'll let him tell you at the end, I guess, unless he wants to tell you now.
I'll give my review of this movie video on Netflix. That was Red Flag number 1. Red Flag number 2. Oh, I can't talk about Red Flag number 2 because Sophie wouldn't like what I would say.
Okay, well, let me say that we are talking about the new Fear Street movie, Part 1, 1994.
And we would have reviewed this movie on Friday when it came out, but I was completely not paying attention to when the movies were coming out, and I thought that they were coming out after 4th of July, so we would have reviewed it earlier.
This movie was inspired or influenced or something like that by R.L. Stine, creator of the Fear Street books. But any likeness to Stine's organized and entertaining book stops here. Ready? I admit that the intro to this Fear Street movie was pretty good.
It's okay.
A girl is closing up her shop at the mall. She hears noises and unfortunately ends up on the wrong side of a knife. The killer wore a skull mask, and as she lay dying on the floor, she pulled it off, and it looked like she knew the guy. That's where the good ended and the agendas and convolution began. Very, very sad. I really wanted to like this movie, but it left me confused all the way through, and oh boy, really at the end. The movie was all over the place. Like I said, stereotypes, agendas, and a convoluted story that I had trouble following, especially at the end.
And what was a key point of why you couldn't follow it? Not just the writing, but the lighting.
Yes, I had a hard time watching this movie because it was all dark.
Yeah.
And I was watching it during the day, 4th of July.
No, that's not.
But it's still, I should have been able to see at least what was going on the inside of the buildings. And if outside, it was dark because it was night. But I don't get what the deal is with making everything dark, because it doesn't add to anything if you can't see what's going on.
Well, it's too bad because the movie's actually colorful otherwise.
Yes.
So it's like, it's colorful, but they're darkening everything so you can't see the color. The only part I would say where it fit was at the beginning, because they had the neon shop, and so that stuff is meant to, a lot of shops in the mall are dark. Like, you go in there, it's dark, and it has this neon lighting or strobe lighting and stuff like that, and so I thought that fit there. But then the rest of them, it's like everything is dark.
Like I said, it was all over the place. If only they had allowed R.L. Stine to write it.
Yeah.
But no, the director was a writer, was a director. And her writing was not good.
And
R.L. Stine is an excellent storyteller, maybe light on character building, but why does everyone buy his books? Because he focuses on the stories.
Not the agenda.
They are simple, but straightforward, scary, interesting, and not, I repeat, not all over the place. And please, 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 get good actors to play the parts. The guy who played the sheriff must have shown up just to collect a paycheck. He showed no affect, no emotion, no spirit. Even
God,
the
Sophie.
kid, brother, had no energy.
And who's the brother played by?
I don't know.
Eugene from Your Honor.
But at least I know he had it within himself. But he held back, seemed reticent at fully expressing himself. He seemed guarded, and that is too bad, because at least he showed up to work, unlike the guy who played the sheriff. Fire him now. He is a disgrace. As far as the Fear Street trilogy is concerned, because there are 2 more movies,
Coming.
I hope part 2 is better, and the same for part 3.
Yeah.
Part 2 looks like it takes place in a summer camp. Horror stories with a summer camp theme can be scary and fun. In the future, please give back R.L. Stine his Fear Street series. Don't let some person who favors stereotypes, agendas, and convoluted storytelling to take over something that is good and turning it into something bad. And my food review is it's even worse than my July 4th potato salad, which needed more flavor, but at least the red potatoes were a good choice of potato for it. The end.
Yeah, the potato salad wasn't that bad. It was kind of bad just because it wasn't like saucy like the potato salad at the store.
I can fix it up.
But the potatoes were actually good. For some reason, it's like better than normal potatoes to have red potatoes.
Yeah, use red potatoes for a potato salad.
So,
Unless it's a German potato salad or something.
well, now I'm gonna say about this movie. I tried watching it and I thought, I'll watch this because I was really excited. The Fear Street movies. I never read a Fear Street book, but I've seen all the Goosebumps. I've seen a ton of stuff R.L. Stine. I've seen The Nightmare Room. I played the Horrorland video game. I watched a Haunting Hour movie. I've watched episodes of the Haunting Hour show. I've seen a ton of stuff R.L. Stine. I watched his masterclass where he talked about writing. I've seen it all. And this was terrible. This was just an abomination. I started watching it, and the opening was okay. The opening was like, okay, this is like getting off to an okay start. Like, it's kind of good, but I just wish that there was some good story to back up like this very over-the-top Scream parody kind of thing. Because the first sequence, it even says it in the IMDb trivia, it's an homage to Scream. And it's like, that's cool, but I want a good story. I don't care about Scream.
Homages to other movies.
Yeah, like, I'm really getting sick of that. Like, there's nothing that's actually original anymore. It's just homages to other things.
And I don't remember R.L. Stine writing anything that's an homage.
Yeah, he has, Sophie.
Well,
he's done a ton of shit like that. He even talked about in his master class he wrote some book called Midsummer Night's Scream and stuff like that.
Well, poof. Big deal.
He does twists on things like Phantom of the Auditorium. That one's really good. That's like Phantom of the Opera kind of.
Right,
but he does original stories, and that
original.
This movie was not original at all.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that was original was the fact that the main character was a lesbian, and that was just for the agenda. And and let me talk about that. They basically treated that like a big plot point, like a huge plot surprise. They talked about this character named Sam, and they left you in the dark of who Sam was. And then you see a couple, and you think Sam is the guy in that couple, and then boom, you find out that Sam is the girl.
She's a cheerleader.
And they're lesbians, of course. 2021 woke propaganda agenda film. And so I immediately turned off the film, not watching that at all. And I don't care, because I guarantee you Safi could say I would not have liked the rest of the movie regardless. And to be honest, there's a ton of movies this year that I wish that I could have turned off. And so this is the one that I decided to turn off. I've watched so many movies this year that I wouldn't have wanted to finish, and I finished them so that I could do reviews for them. And this was the one where I said, I don't want to watch this movie.
Well, I watched the whole thing, and to give it a fair assessment, because
it was a piece of shit.
I didn't care about that, but I did care that it was, I couldn't follow the story.
It was all trash.
It was so, I was so confused at the end, and I'm thinking about going back just to watch the beginning and to watch the end. And at the end, I'm just left astounded. I just, like, what just happened here?
Well, Safi was talking, she was describing it in detail, of course, not actually, like, commenting, just describing as usual. And she described how, like, a spoiler alert, this movie basically encourages suicide.
Yeah.
And so that's really sickening, the fact that, you know, they're making this movie targeted towards teenagers, and it's encouraging teenagers to commit suicide.
I don't know about that.
That's pretty disgusting, in my opinion.
I don't want to say any more about the movie because I want you.
Why?
Because I
don't want people to watch it. Why should they? Why? Oh, look in the window.
I really don't want. I want people to watch the movie for themselves, and that's why I didn't say. Well,
don't do
I
it.
do.
Don't.
Well,
Stay
anyway.
away. Don't give them the view. Don't give them the support. Please don't. They do not. They should not. They do not deserve the support for this. They hired a writer because of her gender, and not because of her qualifications. Because let me tell you, I look at her IMDb, the woman who wrote this movie and the other two Fear Street movies. She's only ever written one other thing before, a movie. Oh, look, there's the kitty. She
wants dinner.
She wrote a movie, and that movie has a 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb. It's some movie I've never heard of before, and she wrote it. And that's her only other project that she's ever written. And of course, she did direct the Scream series, and she has directed multiple projects. So I would say in terms of directing, I would say I think that she did a good job directing, kind of. But obviously, Safi pointed out these terrible performances that she did not fix by directing, because that's what directors are supposed to do, is tell actors what to do. But I think that other than that, she did deserve to direct. But in terms of writing, you should not have hired this woman to write, because she does not have the qualifications to write a Fear Street movie. And so I think that was a huge, and that's the thing. This has happened like, what, every movie now where we talk about every movie, it's like, oh, the script, the writing. The writing is always the problem for some reason. Even though they write like millions of drafts, they're like, oh, I wrote the first draft, and then my script was handed off to another person, and then the 15th draft was written, and then the 10,000th draft was written, and like, even though they write 10,000 drafts, the drafts always suck. And so I think that writing is a huge issue with these movies nowadays. And especially this was just awful. And I turned it off, aside the lesbian agenda, you have the fact that these characters are trash. The main character, she's a whiny little biatch. And the brother, I thought the brother was the best of the bunch, played by Eugene from Your Honor. But he really wasn't, he was just another nerd stereotype.
Well, he didn't have any energy. That's what I don't understand. He was very light. But I could tell he had it within him to be a good actor. The other guy, the sheriff, no. I don't know what he was doing there.
I'm going to echo you, Safi. Let's not get into personal attacks, Safi.
I don't care. I've never seen anybody so lazy.
Oh,
God. They did not, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything for me, and he didn't do anything for the other characters in the movie.
A lot of hallmarks of female writing is, one of them is
Marco.
That the male characters are written as inept and stupid and idiotic. And so I'm not going to say anything more, obviously, because I didn't watch it, but just from Safi's analysis, I'm putting together my thoughts on that. But yeah, I would not recommend this movie, and Safi recommends it because she doesn't want to sound mean, even though it's...
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty mean about the sheriff.
Well, I mean, why would you want someone to have a miserable time watching this 2-hour miserable movie?
Why not?
Because there's so many good movies that they could be watching.
Well, for me, which I read about 1,000 times more than I watch movies, I've read almost a book a day this summer. I can agree with that. And I have somebody else in the kitchen every night who watches movie after movie after movie without even knowing what he's watching. But still, you're gonna, I don't know, maybe you'll be better at figuring it out. You won't be as confused as me. Maybe I'm just confused. But I really had a hard time following it.
And you want people to watch that and be confused and have a horrible time.
That's their problem. Maybe they'll be better at it than me. I don't think so, though. And I from what I hear from other people who've already reviewed it, they're not very happy with it either. I don't know why, but they're not.
It is. It's funny because it is close to having a 5.7 out of 10, just like her other movie. And so it's interesting because it shows that when you hire a writer who wrote a 5.7 out of 10 movie, you get a 5.7 out of 10 movie. And I'm not saying that she could never be a good writer, but she needs the experience. And she should not be handed Fear Street when she hasn't written anything but one movie. And she wrote the other two movies, which is bad as well, because that shows that those might be bad too, which is really unfortunate because I was really excited. I had never read anything Fear Street. I had never seen anything Fear Street except for the shitty pilot episode with that awful pilot with that kid from the Leave It to Beaver movie was in it, and it was this horrible, like, kiddish, goofy pilot that they made. But I was really excited, like, oh, I'm going to get to see some Fear Street novels up on screen, and I'm going to get to see, like, what I was missing out on. And it's like, oh, I guess I wasn't missing out on anything.
Well, I want to say that I looked this book series up on the library site. My other son was one of the original Goosebumps fans, and he bought a few of these Fear Street. I'm going to read one, but there are tons of them on the library site. So if you're interested in reading one, I mean, they're not that long. They're longer, and they look more like paperback novels than maybe the other Goosebumps series books. But these are, they have all kinds of titles, and they look really fun and interesting. So check them out.
You could also find probably more Fear Street books on YouTube, audiobooks, because I've listened to some audiobooks on YouTube because they're on YouTube, and so I would search there too. In terms of this movie was awful. I have nothing but negativity for this movie because it was just a huge FU. Instead of making a Fear Street movie, we're going to make an agenda movie. We're going to have... And I didn't even mention the music. The music was horrible because they just... It's like for every period piece movie, they're just going to play the hit list, the hit song list.
I didn't recognize
every single minute.
Many of them. And I know what the hits were.
They play a song, and then it ends. And then they play another song, and then it ends. And then they play another song, and it ends. And it's just really embarrassingly bad. And, you know, like with Cruella did the same thing. Suicide Squad did the same thing. I'm really getting sick of that. I mean, it's just... Ugh. So... Safi, what should people do?
Okay, well, if you like this video, please
like
and subscribe.
And comment.
Comment, even if you have you disagree, that's okay. It's good to disagree. Let's have some good discourse. If you agree or you have another opinion about it, you're welcome to contribute. everybody should have something to say.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Goodbye, everybody.